Why do I need to become an expert? Why do you need to become an expert? And why does anybody need to become an expert? I'm going to share 4 stories about this. September 2010, there was a guy standing in front of 36 students. 25 of them were boys and 11 girls. He was supposed to teach them. And he has never taught before in the university level. And this was his first time to teach. So what he did was he started talking about what he was good at. And after the class, he thought, how could I become an expert at the things what my students are looking for? And that person was me. What do I have to learn? And how much do I have to learn? These were the debilitating and pressing questions that started haunting me. And as you know, my master degree program didn't train me or teach me to become an expert in anything. So what I did was, I came across first thing that through my research, I found out an awareness continuum, which tells us how can you become an expert from being an unaware. And it has 5 stages. And those 5 stages are data, collection of data, and then when you organize it, it becomes information, and then knowledge, skills, and expertise. You must have seen that most of the people, they get stuck at the knowledge level. That is not the stage what we require, because knowledge is when converted into practice, it becomes skills. And expertise is the application of different skills. And remember, our value is because of our expertise. We are very valuable if we possess a lot of expertise. So, first thing I discovered in becoming an expert is to learn. And learning what it does, it is directly proportional to growth. And learning guarantees our growth as well. And you remember, growth is the gold card of success. But learning doesn't take place without memorization. So the next step, what we require to become an expert is to memorize the things. And when I graduated from the university, with 25 years gap, when I started teaching at the university, my biggest challenge was how to memorize the books. All the books appeared dinosaur to me. And it was very haunting and fierce experience. And I adopted the same practice which we normally do, and that is rote learning and repetition. I suffered the grind of about 3 to 4 hours, and sometimes 5 to 6 hours every day. And forgetfulness was there. And I was very much worried, how can I increase my memorization to 100% what I learned an earlier day? But the retention was about 5 to 6% only. I searched on internet, and I went on to a site called Lumosity.com, and I started using Lumosity. I became their member. And when I started, my memory skill level was at the 47th percentile. And I practiced every day. After 2.5 years, the memory percentile went up to 99.2%, which was very gratifying. And I got complacent, and I stopped it. And after a couple of months, I found out that it has gone down again. So memory is a very complex phenomena. If you just look, it's volatile like clouds. Memorization process is very unstable and unreliable. It is like easy come, easy go. What we need is not only memorization of knowledge, we need something else. And that is, to become an expert, merely memorizing the knowledge is not good enough. We need a third thing, which is called connect. In my third class, when I was teaching, I looked at my students who was having a look on their watch, waiting for the class to end. That was a clear signal that they were getting bored. What do they need to learn was my next question, looking for an answer. And then I found out the answer that people who get bored, their needs are often not addressed. So imagine that you have a phone number having 7 digits, and somehow you have missed or wrongly pushed the wrong button. Can you expect that your call will go through? The answer is no. Same is the case with the knowledge. Knowledge has to be connected in a right way. And when you connect the knowledge in the right way, skills and expertise are all about making the connections. And having the connections is not good enough. We need another thing to become an expert, and that is called recall rate. What is recall rate? Because one of the students, when he asked me a question, I got stumped. And then I was unable to recall and answer it. I felt like a fool. Even though I prepared the subject, but at that particular moment, I was unable to answer it. I felt miserable. Imagine that you are giving an interview and you are asked a question about your profession, and at that moment, you do not know the answer, you cannot recall the answer. How would you feel about it? So after the connection, recall is the key ingredient and very most important ingredient for making the connections and have the recall accurately and quickly. So these are the 4 things. And the first one, the fifth one, we need is the deliberate practice. I'm going to shed light on this one in the end of my presentation. But if you just look at this one, this is the framework of becoming an expert. And I would like to support the hypothesis on some famous studies. My second story is about these 2 psychologists who were very interested to know the impact of memorization on learning. And they conducted an experiment back in 1998 called name calling. Their name is Catherine Fritz and Philip Morris. What they did was they called their participants and made them sit in a circle and gave them a name tag, and with a pen or paper, they asked them to write the name of every other person without looking at the name tag. And they counted them. These were the results of their finding. After 30 minutes, only 75% of the people, they were calling the right name of the people. But the most staggering thing was, after 2 days, the rate dropped down to 40%. And after 11 months, it was 20%. So what does this indicate? Repetition is important, but how we can increase this one. So my third story is about this person. My point of view about the brain is that brain is the CEO of our body. And memory is the mother of brain. Without memory, brain is nothing. Brain is useless. So what we need is that if you have seen that any person that who can demonstrate a good memory, he is fairly considered to be intelligent person. So memory is very, very important and critical. Memory distinguishes between intelligent and non-intelligent person. Moving forward, my third story is about this person who was of German origin. Back in 1885, he conducted a wonderful experiment on himself, and he wanted to know the impact of forgetfulness. His name is Hermann Ebbinghaus, and what he did was he collected all the non-relevant and nonsensical material, and he tried to recall them. And he came up with a very wonderful study. Here are the findings. He plotted the recall percentage versus the time. And look at the study that whenever we learn, after 1 day, our retention rate goes to 40%. And this is what happens. And he says that if you just repeat it after 1 day, the retention can go up, and your recall will go up, and retention on the third day will be 80%. Look at the exponential growth of the retention level. Experts they cannot afford 40% or 80%. They need higher recall rate. Otherwise, they will get stumped. Then he advised that if you repeat again, on the 6th day, your retention rate will go up to nearly 90%. And again, if you repeat it, and on the 10th day, it's going to be about 95%, which is quite close. And if you just do it on the 10th day, it's going to be above 95%, which is quite satisfying. And he plotted the curve, and look at the curve, it's very exponential. And this was the result. But I have another person who revolutionized the whole process. In his childhood, he played chess with his classmate, and his classmate was not that good in the games. And what he did was that every time he played chess with him, he defeated him. But one day his classmate beat him. This was the turning point for this gentleman, and it became his mission to find out what impact it carries for the people who become so high performance in a lesser time. His name is Anders Ericsson. He is a professor of psychology at Florida State University, and he has done numerous publications on peak performance. And he has written a voluminous book called Cambridge Handbook of Experts and Expertise. It contains more than 900 pages. And according to him, he's also called as expert of the experts. According to him, any expert, be it Einstein, Michelangelo, Mozart, or Thomas Edison, their famous was not because of their innate capability. It was something else. And Ericsson came up with this phenomena that there is no correlation. There's no correlation between IQ and expertise. Look at Walt Disney and Wright brothers. They invented the flying machine. The second hypothesis was that experts are always made, not born. In the 80s, there was an experiment done at a Hungarian father who had 3 daughters. Ladies do not generally play chess, and he let his daughters play chess right from the childhood. And in 2000, imagine, they were among the top 10 chess players of the world. And then he said, learning should be measured. And imagine the kind of skills you have, you are going to become more and more valuable. And the formula he gave us, practice intentionally or deliberately. And for that, he said, if you just perform sustained, specific, and concentrated. What does this mean? It's not a common practice. This deliberate practice takes you out of your comfort zone. And what happens is that if you do the sustain, it's going to recall it. It's going to cover recall system and repetition as well. And if you be specific, you are going to get rid of the generalization, and you are going to have more connections, which we discussed about it. And if you just be concentrated, and you know, if you are focused, you bring more results, you produce more results. So this is, I think, I thought the idea was worth spreading, and I'm glad I did it. Thank you so much.